The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Crime News Talk.
You are listening to Canary Crime News Talk. It is June 5th. 2023. Today, anti-woke merchants. My name is Gonz, director of the Age of Deceit Films. Wife calls me the Cabana Boy, your favorite Asian provocateur for Christ, live to tape from California to bring you the best news, which is the gospel message of Jesus Christ, while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events and today's emergent phenomena. More chaos. Just a lot of things hitting on a Monday. You know, we'll get to the Monday stuff later, but one of the big stories that we won't cover today, I mean, it's big for, you know, people like me who are into cryptocurrencies, but the SEC, which is the Securities Exchange Commission, sued Binance, which is the biggest exchange, crypto exchange out there. I think it operates out of Canada. It was run by a guy named CZ Sinjin Pao. And he's Canadian born, but I believe he's Chinese. So, you know, there's always some misunderstanding there. But Gary Gensler over at the SEC, he is the real life Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. If you have ever seen or have maybe not watched a Simpsons episode, I don't know how old or how into The Simpsons people that listen to this show are, but maybe growing up you saw it. And most people are familiar with the characters. And Mr. Burns is like this evil billionaire character in the show. And Gary Gensler just looks, there's a striking resemblance. You know, if they did a AI of the real life version of Mr. Burns, he would look like Gary Gensler. And he's just destroying crypto in America right now. So that's fun. That's the story that I'm not going to talk about today. And there's already enough happening with aliens and all kinds of stuff. So it's crazy. Now, before we get too far into anything, just a quick Basil update, because I know everyone's wondering what's going on with Basil. Right before the show, I did get a message from him. Today was the big day to go in and talk to the doctors to see what was going on. He said he just got the tube out. He got the tube out. The tube is no longer in his belly. So that's a hallelujah to that. That's great news. And he said he does have a big hole in his tummy. I'm assuming he means a new hole, not his belly button. Although it's possible that they made his belly button a larger hole. He said, we'll be testing out the sitting. So, we'll see how the sitting goes, and then we'll find out if he'll be back Wednesday or Friday. But my guess, he'll be back. I'm going to call Friday. I'll say Friday he'll be back, but, you never know. He might be back next Monday. We'll just have to see, no rush to get back. He just needs to rest and heal the gaping wound that he has now. So there you go. Keep praying for Basil, but things are looking up. So that's great. And it's good to hear. Good to hear positive things coming from Basil and his whole situation. And thank you to all the people who've been praying for him and his family. Let's just jump right in with a little disclaimer at the top.
It's time for a disclaimer.
Now listen up, YouTube.
That's right. And just for all the content moderators and censorship managers out there, be they robots or humans, everything you hear on this show comes directly from the mainstream corporate news media. We do not claim to be experts on healthcare, geopolitics, military strategy, corporate law, or the moral and ethical implications of any of these topics, nor do we implicitly or explicitly support or subscribe to any sources or narratives containing misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation, as defined by the Department of Homeland Security. We're good boys. All right, YouTube, we're good boys.
And somebody pointed out in the comments, I think it was on YouTube last episode, how it says mainstream, I think it was in that little pitch there, mainstream culture news media is how the text reads, but I'm pretty sure Basil is saying mainstream corporate news media. So the text to, or a speech to text, I guess, didn't work out too great on that one, but it's okay. Those are little things, little details that we don't notice until people point out. So thank you very much for whoever was the one that pointed that out. Let's run it down.
Oh, look, here's Basil.
Let me bring you up to speed.
All right. I know everyone wants to talk aliens, and we'll get there. But at first, we're going to talk about this really interesting situation at CNN. Yes, I know, CNN. Everyone hates CNN. But there's some stuff going on with Chris Licht. He's been in the news recently. I mean, he's been thrust into the spotlight, really. So we'll talk about some of what he's been going through, as well as what CNN has been up to, which is kind of interesting. And that leads us into a quick rundown of this thesis that's kind of forming. I think it's pretty obvious if you put the dots together. But it's this whole sort of technocratic takeover of the alt media or right wing, whatever you want to call it, this organic movement of constitutionalists and all this stuff. It seems to be a big ruse. It seems to be a Murdoch monster, as well as part of a DeSantis deception. I know that's going to upset some people, but we'll get into some of the details here with some of the points that I want to make about that. And then we have a flippy update, another plant-controlled robot arm. We'll get into some of the history of that. We've covered a lot of plant-based robots, but here's just another one, which is interesting. And then, that little, there's a sonic boom heard in the DC area, and there's some reports on that from the New York Times. It comes right around the time of the big reveal. Crafts of non-human origin. A whistleblower from the intelligence operatives is suggesting that we have decades of this technology, which kind of falls in line with the whole breakaway civilization thesis that I've been on for a while. I know many others have been on it as well. And then, again, another, I'm sure, quote-unquote coincidence, some engineers have created free energy, more or less, from the air. And then we'll touch on the metaverse, because that's also making the news today. So let's get things kicked off with a little bit of politics and CNN. Oh, Why isn't this audible? Hold on one second. Something is wrong. Oh, here we go. All right, here it is. Politics.
Poly.
It's Latin for many.
Tick.
Now suck your blood. Now suck
Politics.
your blood.
Chris Licht, president of CNN.
Now, one of the big things that we've been tracking is, and over the last 2.5, 3 years, especially since the pandemic, lockdown, all that kind of stuff, we saw and we tracked a large ship make a U-turn. You know, everything was left, progressive, and it slowly started to make this wide turn the opposite direction, and the ship started to lean conservative, right wing. You know, all the sort of talking points started to fall in the favor of the right, mostly because a lot of the facts, or at least objective facts, tended to fall to the side of the right because they were looking at things a little more objectively than your sort of ideological left progressive view on things. But a lot of things happened as part of the economic turbulence or tsunami that was created with COVID. One of them was the sale of CNN, and CNN was bought up by Warner Brothers Discovery, which it's so funny when you go down this rabbit trail. I went down the rabbit trail this morning. I was like, hey, who owns CNN? And then I remembered the whole Warner Brothers and the Discovery merger. And you look at, you would have to chart out exactly how the subsidiaries and this, satellite companies and all these different, this web of corporatism that legally protects these individuals behind the scenes. It's quite fascinating when you go down the rabbit trail, because it's like, man, there's Discovery, then there's Warner Brothers Discovery, and then that's under this umbrella. And so there's many layers. But just as a quick primer to the whole thing, you go to the Warner Brothers Discovery corporate website, and right there, for those of you watching, you see the whole little thing play out with the logo, and you scroll down, and one of the first things you see, environmental, social, and governance, ESG, right on the homepage there. Warner Brothers Discovery intends to build upon our previous commitments and legacy programs to be a champion for the diverse voices, perspectives, and experiences in our workforce and our world, and ultimately foster a respected, successful, sustainable, and inclusive global media and entertainment company. So pretty flat out, blatant. They're laying out their agenda. They want to have this whole sort of woke kind of ESG. I always said evil satanic governance, but whatever you're going to do. So anyway, that's the primer, just to freshen everyone's memories. Excuse me. Still recovering from that little throat thing. I have my mute button so I can clear my throat here. Okay, excuse me. All right, so let's get into this article from The Atlantic. I know, I wish Basil was here, because Basil just loves The Atlantic and anything they write. It's just the tip of the spear for propaganda. And the headline for this article, Inside the Meltdown at CNN. CEO Chris Licht felt he was on a mission to restore the network's reputation for serious journalism. How did it all go wrong? And this was published back on June 2nd. And I don't want to read the whole thing because it is extremely long. I mean, it's just, I don't know. There's just a lot. I did highlight a bunch of stuff here. And we don't have to go through everything. But the idea here, it kind of paints Chris Licht as this sort of this guy who's just trying to do the right thing. This, I don't know. It's kind of weird to see him thrown into the limelight like this. And they're shaping him as this unfortunate victim of the current politics of the day. So back when he took the job, he's quoted as saying, the media has absolutely, I believe, learned its lesson when it comes to sort of the Trump situation. And he continued on, I really do. I think they know that he's playing them, meaning Trump is playing the media, specifically CNN at least. The people in my organization, we've had discussions about this. We know that we're getting played, so we're going to resist it. And so part of Licht, they outline this reporter having a relationship with Licht, and they paint him in all these interesting lights, like, oh, he looked all disheveled at the most recent time I saw him, and he was there was this one part where think it's at the very end of the article where it talks about how he's even got like a little buzz on his iWatch, and it was his boss, who is David Zaslav, who's in charge of the whole discovery side of things and the takeover. And he was actually the one that really pushed for hey, we're going to restore CNN to a more integrous journalistic outlet. And so, of course, Chris Licht, being the guy hired by him, would just follow in his footsteps and do what he was hired to do. But then it goes into the whole CNN town hall that Trump did a few weeks ago, and how it was a disaster for CNN, that the right wing smashed CNN for doing so, and then the left wing smashed CNN for having Trump on. It was just a disaster. I tend to think that it was by design, that whole thing was by design. That, the whole point was that CNN needed a hard reset. In order to do that, you have to upset both sides, and then you can start to cater your message to somebody else. And I'll kind of go through that in a minute here. But let's see. Let me read a little bit here, because there's just some interesting insight in this article. When Licht found me in the lobby, commenting on how not boring the night had been, it wasn't clear how much of the blowback he'd already seen. This is after the town hall. What was clear was that Licht knew this was bad. Very, very bad. Republicans were angry at CNN. Democrats were angry at CNN. Journalists were angry at CNN. The only one who wasn't angry, it seemed, was Trump, most likely because he'd succeeded in disgracing the network on its own airwaves. I felt for Licht, having spent long stretches of the past year in conversation with him as he attempted to build the new CNN. I often found myself agreeing with his principles of journalism. Some media figures had trashed Licht for hosting the town hall in the first place, arguing that nothing good could come from platforming a man who tried to sabotage the peaceful transition of power. Licht disagreed, and so did I. Trump was the runaway favorite for the GOP nomination and a decent bet to occupy the White House in 2 years. The media had every obligation to scrutinize him, interview him, and yes, platform him. Licht's theory of CNN, what had gone wrong, how to fix it, and why doing so could lift the entire industry made a lot of sense. The execution of that theory, another story. Every move he made, big programming decisions and small tactical maneuvers alike, seemed to backfire. By most metrics, the network under Licht's leadership had reached its historical nadir. In my conversation with nearly 100 employees at CNN, it was clear that Licht needed a win, a big win, to keep the place from falling apart. The Trump town hall was supposed to be that win. It had to be that win. And yet, once again, the execution had failed. It's like, man, they're really going after this guy. I asked Licht whether the town hall had advanced the mission of CNN. He bit his lip. Too early to say, Licht replied. It's like, I don't know what. Every single time they describe the interactions, like these rendezvous, this journalist anyway with Chris Licht, it's always kind of, he doesn't say like, oh, had a drag of a cigarette and I could only see his shadow in the street lamp or something like that. But that's how it kind of feels. I think he's eating a sandwich in one of them or something. But the way it's written, this tone of like, oh man, he's really disheveled. And he's really just, he's all stressed out, Let's see. Let me find some other things here. Oh, it talks a little bit about that handoff. The CNN, CNN being bought by Warner Brothers Discovery. So it says here, meanwhile, it talks about the Me Too problem and all the Cuomo issues and the Zucker issues that CNN was having. Meanwhile, the ownership change that preceded Licht's arrival, AT&T spun off Warner Media, which then merged with Discovery Inc. to create Warner Brothers Discovery, had been messier than expected. Thanks to shaky balance sheets followed by an inflation crisis, Warner Brothers Discovery saw its stock price drop by half within months of its launch. Days before Licht assumed control of CNN, the new parent company announced the termination of CNN Plus, a streaming platform that had been hailed as the future of the company. And then it gets into Zaslav, the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, exacerbated these tensions by choosing Licht without interviewing any of CNN's internal candidates. Oh, how dare he! Zaslav told numerous people that he needed an outsider to revamp CNN's journalistic practices because Republican politicians had told them they were no longer willing to come on the network, a rationale that worried staffers there. So, yes, it was just the Republicans said they won't come, so they had to bend to Republican wishes. The CNN rank and file were nonetheless excited by the arrival of Licht, yada, yada, yada. A few weeks into the tenure, Licht instructed, things went sideways fast. A few weeks into the tenure, Licht instructed his producers to downplay the first hearing of the January 6th committee. Carnal sin, an event that MSNBC treated like a primetime special, earning monster ratings that infuriated the CNN staff. So, again, this is just a little glimpse into how the mainstream media operates. It really is... The truth doesn't matter whatsoever. I think most people are aware of that by now. But even in this instance of, hey, Licht, he's in there, he's going to restore some integrity. Even in that sense, holding to any amount of objectivity or balance is seen as just this egregious thing because all the clicks went to MSNBC, who was treating it like a primetime special, this January 6th committee story. And so for CNN staff, they want the clicks. They want to hit on the story that's a buzz right now. And for Chris Licht to be like, hey, tone it down. People are going to be mad, or at least internally at CNN. And so, of course, that's not that big of a deal, but it's those little things that are motivated more so by financial and clicks and maybe advertising, things of that nature. It's more about numbers than it is about any kind of facts or truth, which most people realize, but it's a great example of how, it's just so upsetting that, they downplay Jan, say, what are you talking, primetime special, we're going to earn a bunch of ratings because we're going to go all in on this, right? So, very interesting. And then it goes on here, drinking from a glass of iced coffee, Licht shrugged it all off. The internal leaks, the external media swarm, the public columns, and whispered anecdotes accusing him of remaking CNN into Fox News Light. Quote, "This is too important for me to be worried about what someone's calling me or suggesting I'm trying to be," Licht said. Quote, "This is so mission-driven and so important. I genuinely am. I get mad. I get frustrated. But it doesn't, affect me. Does that make sense?" I love how they did the word for word. So he has that, it doesn't, affect me. It didn't make sense. Matt Dornick offered to translate, and then it goes into some other guys trying to understand his whole thing here. Let's see. But that guy does say something interesting. This Dornick guy who's responding, he is, who is Dornick here? He was accompanying them, the author of the article here, in the capacity as CNN's Senior Vice President of Communications. Okay. He explained that what upsets the new boss isn't harsh coverage, the new boss being Licht, not harsh coverage of him personally. Okay, so he's basically playing PR guy for Chris Licht, and he's providing an explanation for why Chris Licht is like this. Why is he doing this? It's not because, and he doesn't, so the response here explained that what upsets the new boss isn't harsh coverage of him personally, but rather bad press about CNN's journalists. Oh, he's so integral. Chris Licht is just, all he cares about is the journalists at CNN. Nothing else, not even his personal well-being, his personal perception or whatever. Dornick cited recent reports about how Jake Tapper's experimental show in the 9 p.m. hour, the slot vacated by Cuomo, which had yet to be permanently filled, was drawing anemic numbers. Licht pointed a finger at Dornick. "What drives me nuts," he said, "is that has the potential to throw my group off the mission." Really stoked about this whole mission about journalism. And it goes into how journalism was his first love, Chris Licht's first love. And again, extremely long article. I don't understand. This is, by the way, I know how many words this article was. 15,000 words on Chris. How long have they been working on the Chris Licht hit piece? It is just unbelievable. And I will be fully transparent and say I did not make it through all 15,000 words. It's just way too long. Found some things, interesting at the top there, but other than that, it just goes on and on and on. It's crazy. This is like a book. Here, okay, at the very end. As we sipped our coffee, they're always drinking coffee, Licht tried to sound unflappable. Quote, I don't need people to be loyal to Chris Licht. I need people to be loyal to CNN. What are you, a superhero, Chris Licht? Are you like the mainstream media superhero? What are you talking about? Why are you referring to yourself in third person? It's so weird, you know? Don't be loyal to Chris Licht. Be loyal to CNN. The only person whose loyalty he needed, I pointed out, this is a journalist, was Zaslav. Yeah, his boss. That's how it works. Licht nodded slowly, saying nothing. Like he's ashamed of it. Then, just as he started to speak, oh, this is it right here. His wrist began buzzing and flashing. Licht glanced down at his smartwatch. Zaslav was calling him. Oh, speak of the devil, huh? He looked up at me, seeing that I'd noticed. Licht allowed a laugh, a genuine laugh, then stood up from the table and answered his phone. Whoa! He answered his boss's phone call. He's such a rebellious man on a mission to restore journalistic integrity to CNN. Very weird article, Atlantic. Whatever. They're trying to go after Chris Licht because he had Trump on CNN. It's just a weird thing. Now, this was published on the 2nd of June, which was last Friday. It was a show day, but we didn't cover that day. Today, it was reported this morning. CNN, this is from CNBC. CNN CEO Chris Licht apologizes to staff during internal Monday morning call. So, yeah, embattled CNN chief, he's embattled already. CNN chief executive Chris Licht apologized to the news organization's staff Monday morning during the cable news network's 9 a.m. Eastern time call, according to people familiar with the matter. Licht told staffers he didn't recognize himself in a 15,000-word profile in The Atlantic that published Friday. The story documented his views on CNN's coverage and his attempts at winning over staffers during the first year on the job. Some CNN staffers saw the Licht magazine profile as showing poor judgment at a time when ratings are falling and employees are openly rebelling against his decision last month to air a Donald Trump town hall with hundreds of his cheering fans. Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav, they just keep bringing this guy up, wasn't pleased with the profile titled Inside the Meltdown at CNN and agreed it was mishandled, according to people familiar with his thinking. Licht said during the call he understands staffers' frustration and is intended on earning his employees' trust, said the people. He didn't specifically speak to why he participated in the Atlantic profile, in which reporter Tim Alberta spent months with Licht, including joining him at the gym during a personal training session and attending backstage CNN programming rehearsals. Ooh, exclusive access. Licht's remarks were short, said the people, who were not authorized to discuss the matter publicly. The CNN spokesperson declined to comment. Licht announced the hiring of David Levy on Thursday as the network's new chief operating officer, COO. Levy will be tasked with taking over marketing, public relations, advertising, sales, facilities, and other logistics. All right, bring in a new guy. Bring in the next scapegoat guy. So there you go. That's just a little rundown on CNN and Chris Licht. And, you know, we were on Chris Licht right from the beginning. It seems like he's going to keep his job for now, I guess. But he's going to get some help from some other guys. And it really is sort of the growing pains, or maybe just the, metamorphosis pain of trying to return to center. It's not as easy as it looks. It's not as easy as it sounds for large, mega, multi-million dollar, possibly billions of dollar institutions like CNN. And we're seeing it now. Now, as a sort of commentary to where this all stands, I'm noticing CNN cover more and more stories that appeal to you would consider a right-wing audience. Now, we're seeing the flippening. We noticed Fox News, with the dropping of Tucker and all this, we're seeing sort of the democratification of Fox News, and we're seeing the Republicanization of CNN or something. Again, it's a lot of musical chairs. It's a lot of and social engineers of this country love this kind of thing where there's turmoil and everything's is an upheaval because they can start to reshuffle some things around to see if it works better, or I guess works to their advantage. Now, this was a story that was out, it was been reported by multiple outlets, but CNN normally didn't share stories like this, or if they did, it was kind of buried. But this is CNN.com, published on the 3rd of June. Headline: A Florida woman's car caught fire with her children inside while she allegedly shoplifted in a mall. Now, of course, a headline like this really triggers, or I guess appeals to your alt-right or alt-media personality, or your alternative media audience who already has a bias about what the whole shoplifting situation is about. I mean, there's various levels, of course, but typically your conservatives are against the shoplifting that's allowed and the $1,000, at least in California, it's $1,000, I guess, minimum, right? So if there's a robbery and it's under $1,000, hey, tough luck. Even if it's like a store thing where they crash the store, and they don't do much about that stuff. So it is a political issue, and for CNN to tap into that or lean into that narrative with a headline like this, which again, the story, allegedly true, pretty catastrophic and horrible for this person, this woman, to leave her kids in the car, and the car, goes up in flames, and there's a horrible situation. But it's just something I noticed. Something I noticed is it's a weird kind of a twist in things. And so I think a lot of what we've seen, this hyper push for the progressive left to go really mainstream, and we've seen it big time with the whole Budweiser thing, right? New York Post here, headline: Ex-Anheuser-Busch exec reveals how lefty investment firms pressure companies to go woke. So now we're kind of covering this whole woke thing here because in today's episode, because there seems to be not a bait and switch per se, but more so like a misdirection almost, or kind of a Trojan horse, you can call it, where you create a situation where the woke is a little out of control. It's a little too much woke. And your common person on the street, people that don't necessarily pay attention to politics, are all of a sudden going online, going on social media, and all of a sudden they have opinions about woke policies, right? So I think there's some kind of reverse psychology going on, is all I'm saying. A PSYOP, if you will. So, yeah, well, it is a PSYOPs. And we'll get into more of it in a second here. But basically, this whole Anheuser-Busch thing, woke governance that has sent profits spiraling at companies like Anheuser-Busch and Target was the most recent target, often begins with lefty investment firms pressuring them to push the products their way, an ex-top Anheuser-Busch executive said. During an appearance on Fox News, Jesse Watters Primetime, Anson Frericks said behind-the-scenes politicking from firms like New York-based Blackrock and Pennsylvania-based Vanguard, another big one, spur many of the controversial decisions, sparking nationwide boycotts from longtime, more conservative customers, such as the ill-fated Bud Light promotion with transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney. He said BlackRock, Vanguard, and another firm, State Street, manage about $20 trillion in capital and use their clout to promote agenda politics being pushed on them by progressive lawmakers overseeing government pension funds that the companies profit from. Now, yes, this, I believe, it's obviously true. It's these big sort of hedge fund groups with BlackRock managing over $10 trillion in assets. They have a lot of money to throw at corporations, companies, at least pressure. They're the ones that hold all of the shares, in a sense. So if a corporation doesn't play ball, they can pull the rug out from under them. They have that kind of power and influence. So yes, they can get companies they could pressure companies to follow certain ideologies or really hit home on certain topics, like we saw with Bud Light and the transgender thing. Now, here's a thing that I think most people are seeing this going, oh, look at woke is broke. You go woke, you go broke. Look at all these woke companies crashing, all these woke policies failing. Yes, it is true. But, one thing that going into the crypto world and sort of learning about all that has taught me is a lot about markets and how the stock market and all that stuff operates. I remember when I was in high school, I wanted to learn more about the stock market. And I was asking like friends, families. Nobody knew about the stock market because people were like, oh, I want to invest in stocks. And I was like, yeah, how do you do that? And they're like, yeah, I don't know. I had my dad do it. And I was like, okay, well, let me talk to your dad. And, even he was not really sure how to do it. He had a guy, so it was a very nebulous thing, how to invest in the stock market. But I mean, imagine doing that at, 17, 18 years old. Pretty smart if you can figure it out. But at the time I didn't have any resources. So anyway, one of the things I learned was all this trading stuff, right? These corporations, you have obviously the very simple thing is you buy something and then, hopefully the value of that asset, whatever you bought, a stock or a bond or whatever it is, goes up in value. And then you can hold that value there if you need to spend. If you need cash, you can sell some of that, the stuff that's in profit, and then you have your cash. Now, there's another way to make money. So everybody makes money when the market's going up. But another way to make money is when markets crash. Something called shorting. I'm sure most people are familiar with. So basically what you do is the whole, I guess like the proper way to short is that you borrow money and you bet that the price is going to go down. And when it does go down, then you can obviously buy up a lot more with the cash that you have. But that's basically what it is. It's a bet that the price of whatever asset will go down. And if it does, people can make a lot of money on that. And when it comes to these players like BlackRock and Vanguard, I think BlackRock had a couple trillion wiped off their books last year because last year was sort of the unspoken the economic reset with everything. And we're seeing a lot of the effects of it now, but all the rate hikes and everything. And maybe BlackRock is just trying to squeeze a little more money out by shorting markets, shorting a company. And it would make a lot of sense to be like, hey, Bud Light, hey, you got to really push this trans thing. Get one of the top trans people out there, just make it a controversial thing. Really push it, knowing that it's going to tank the Bud Light stock or Anheuser-Busch or whatever. And then all these guys, these rich guys, they're ready to do a few things. They can short it and make all that money, but also they can buy the stock on the cheap and they can basically take over. So I don't know. There's a lot to this idea that some of this was obviously it's by design and there's the transhumanism aspect of it, but I think there's also a financial incentive side to it. And on that regard, I have this clip here from Larry Fink of BlackRock talking about having to force behaviors, which kind of speaks into what I was just saying, get company to do what they want them to do.
It's just, you have to force behaviors. And if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted. And that's not recruiting, it is development, as Ken said.
How do you force change, though? I mean, Larry, BlackRock has really been in the forefront of the ESG movement within corporate governance and a real leader. And yet change is so slow. So what is, and Ken as well, how do you force change when it is so incremental and so gradual? How do you do something more radical? Have you thought about that? Has the board of American Express thought about more radical?
I'll tell you, guy, you tell Bud Light to push the most trans person you can find. That's how you do it.
Things we could do to enhance diversity and inclusion.
Because it has to be imbued in the culture of a firm. It has to be talked about. It has to be shown. Behaviors across the entire firm in every region have to be similar. And every citizen of the firm has to understand what is acceptable behaviors and what are unacceptable behaviors.
All right, so there you go. There's Larry Fink talking about this issue and having to shape behavior. And so, he's saying that in the sense of, hey, we need to have more inclusion. We need to be basically more woke. But again, these people are not in it to be honest. These people are here to make money and to own assets And, the whole phrase about you will own nothing and be happy. Well, these are the folks that are working for the folks that have everything. So, of course, they're going to say, like, we need to be more inclusive and da-da-da-da-da. But then they know what the majority of the public believe when it comes to certain issues. And they know what would cause cultural attention, cultural movement. And so I would not be surprised if the behavior that they wanted from the people was ban Budweiser, da-da-da-da-da, crash the stock, whatever it is, because it can also provide the recovery story. And it's not as easy, but, tying this to the Chris Licht situation here, he kind of came in as that, hey, I'm going to fix CNN, and it's been this tough road. But let's see how this plays out, because he might turn into some like conservative Republican right-wing hero where he's like, he really did bring, CNN back to a respectable place or whatever. Listen, we're in politics. We're in the age of mind control. In 2016, 2017, anyone who said CNN has any integrity, you were probably properly labeled a Democrat. Anybody who was skeptical of CNN was most of the time properly, but not always, labeled as right-wing extremist, whatever. But imagine that flipping, and how much of a psychological operation is right in front of our faces if in a few years you have Fox News being the champion of the Democrats and CNN being the champion of the Republicans. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that's the kind of thing that they can do to really mess with the public and really create these narratives and push storylines and reasons for doing things, when really all they're in it for is more control, more ownership, more money on the behalf of the elite. Okay, so another example of this going into 2024, this is Vanity Fair. Now, here the other part of this whole apparatus that I want to talk about, heard a little bit of it from No Agenda, and Adam Curry and John C. Dvorak on the last episode was doing a pretty good job of putting this idea together that DeSantis is sort of this, they didn't call him globalist, but really sort of a hijacking of the deep state, whatever you want to call it. They didn't really endorse that idea as much as I think certain Trump supporters would, but there is something to it. Now, first of all, Vanity Fair, I put together my own sort of logic behind this, so that's what I'll walk you through here. But go listen to that No Agenda episode if you want to dig into some other stuff that they cover. But Vanity Fair here has a headline from the 3rd of June. YouTube reverses ban on 2020 election denial as 2024 race ramps up. Interesting. So YouTube is reversing the ban on 2020 election denial, which means election denial conversation is now allowed on YouTube. Huh. What could that mean? Well, a couple things. There's probably going to be a mainstream discussion about election denial. If they are setting up a Trump victory or a DeSantis victory or just a Republican victory in general, you want lefty, Democrat, progressive types to be flooding their channels with talk about election fraud and have all the same kind of speculations and narratives and sort of rogue influencers and journalists and all these people compiling any kind of information that might even hint at the idea that the elections were rigged in the opposite direction from 2020. And so, again, this is, to me, I don't know. I studied sociology in college, and seeing this sort of social engineering and the trajectory of all this is very fascinating. So YouTube reverses its ban on the 2020 election denial conversation, ramping up for the 2024 race. Yeah, it does seem like they're getting ready to have that conversation openly. In a statement released on an official company blog, one of the world's largest video platforms cited, quote, the ability to openly debate political ideas, even those that are controversial or based on disproven assumptions, as the reason for the change. Okay, interesting. A couple things. One, they are admitting more or less, YouTube is admitting here that they did not promote open debate. Basically, what they're saying is, even if the information is false, we curtailed it. We did not allow conversations to take place openly when it came to this issue. And my whole thing is, okay, do medical misinformation next, please. You know, do all those YouTubers get their channels restored who, questioned the 2020 elections? Probably not. So this is nonsense other than to maybe help the narrative. So that's very interesting as far as this sort of flipperoo happening. Now, we get into the other part of the PSYOP, which is Elon, the Murdochs, and DeSantis.
You are already sort of a cybernetic symbiote. Neural nets are taking over from regular programming. So you are connected.
DeSantis. I'm Ron DeSantis.
DeSantis? I don't know. Forbes.com. We'll get to DeSantis in a second here. Forbes.com. And so let me just run through some stuff here, because this year has been obviously a lot going on, a lot of crazy stuff happening. Even just today, just stuff falling apart, blowing up. Aliens. But there's something here that a line of events, and certainly, hindsight is 2020. And so even if it's in immediate hindsight, you can kind of start to piece together the agenda here. Okay, so back in February of this year, 2022, during the Super Bowl, we saw Elon Musk talking with Rupert Murdoch. Forbes.com had the headline, Neophyte media baron Elon Musk cozies up with Rupert Murdoch at Super Bowl. And yeah, we're not going to read it. It's just, again, it was a visual thing. Like, hey, there's Elon at the Super Bowl talking to Murdoch. Huh, that's interesting. Football. And then what was interesting was that even Axios started to pick up on this Murdoch-Musk connection. This is in May, so a few months later, 3 months later. Axios, Musk moves in on Murdoch. Moves in on Murdoch. Huh. Elon Musk has displaced Rupert Murdoch and Fox News as the king of conservative media in recent weeks. So Axios in May said that Elon Musk replaced Murdoch as the king of conservative media. What was the conversation they were having at the Super Bowl? Did Murdoch pass like a baton or something? Something weird is afoot. Why it matters. Fox News used to be the place where conservatives went to break news. But the right-wing ecosystem has turned on the network, leaving Twitter as the center of media gravity for the Republican Party, just as the 2024 elections heat up. And it gets into other stuff with Shapiro and Tucker Carlson and all the stuff, all of the Elon drama. But I just want to, again, with this broad brush and looking back, we have Elon Musk meeting with Rupert Murdoch, and then we have Axios talking about how Musk took over as the conservative king of media from Rupert Murdoch. And of course, we know about Musk's greater agenda with Twitter. Again, in May, there was an article published by the NPR, headline, A Brief Biography of X, the letter that Elon Musk has plastered everywhere. And really, it's about the X app, or the X.ai, or whatever he's making over there, the everything app. The mark of the beast precursor is like, hey, do everything through the X app. What's crazy to me is, and this is something I noticed a couple of years ago, I may have even said it a couple of years ago, especially, and it's become way more clear with this X thing with Elon, is that as much as we talk against China and Xi and sort of the communist autocracy that exists in China, if you look at Elon, and I did talk about this in other contexts in my earlier Elon rants this year, but you look at X and it's almost like, okay, it's a messaging app, it's your bank, it's where you can tweet or whatever, social media. I heard this from an interview that the guy from Valuetainment something Bet David. I forget his name. But he's a very successful media mogul guy. He used to do like hedge funds or something. And he mentioned something very interesting in an interview with one of those comedian podcasts. I forget which one it was recently. But the conversation was fairly serious. And he mentioned how he thinks Elon Musk is going to buy Rumble to be sort of the back end video platform to support Twitter. And then Elon Musk has recently come out and said, hey, don't worry, X is going to be compatible with SpaceX and Tesla. And, these aren't separate things. It's one big thing, And so, again, in my mind, I'm kind of like blown away that there's Xi Jinping in China who's effectively doing the same thing as a working Communist Party head autocrat. He's got the apps. He's got the news feed. He's got the whole, everything is G-centric. And out here in the West, again, we have our own autocracies, our oligarchs, our billionaires, and Elon's pretty much doing the same thing. He's building his own thing. And of course, it's all supposed to be on the bastion of truth and justice and, thank you. Large jar of Cheetos has just arrived on my desk. 6-year-old wants to share her Cheetos with me. Thank you. I'm just appalled that more people on the conservative side of the aisle don't see the parallels with what Elon is doing and what Xi Jinping has already done in China with the social credit score stuff. They're just not calling it that. And sure, maybe there are some differences in the tech stack when it comes to how Elon envisions to manage all this data. But, and again, it might have this appearance of, hey, it's your data. Don't worry. Well, how do I access my data? Log into our app. Which again is like, okay, well then you're controlling that data. So anyway, I can go on and on about this and yell and scream about it. And of course, the other weird move with Elon recently, he hired Linda Yaccarino as the new CEO of Twitter. And I love this. This story from this article or this outlet, again, indicates be very careful who you side with. And again, this is a great example of staying neutral on mainstream media. Don't, just jump in and buy into any narrative for or against your favorite politicians or whatever it might be, because it's so finicky, This is Snopes.com, everyone's favorite place to debunk fake news, their favorite fact-checking website, Snopes. And Snopes had this headline back in May. Has new Twitter CEO Linda Yaccarino worked with both WEF, that's the World Economic Forum, and Biden administration? Oh, those conspiracy theory wild places? Has she really worked there? And hilariously, Snopes says, true. Snopes sounding like a truther from 2013. Calling out World Economic Forum and Biden administration ties. I mean, I just find it kind of funny. It's like, all right, good job, Snopes. You finally got one that seems to make sense. And excuse me. Ooh. So there you go. That's kind of the setup here for DeSantis, because one of the big stories in the last week. This is Forbes again. Elon Musk and Ron DeSantis prove that Twitter Spaces is kind of a joke. Right? Mainstream media is mad because Elon Musk and his little toy app is garnering millions of people to join and listen in on different things. So, yes, Ron DeSantis announced his presidency last week on a Twitter Spaces. Twitter Spaces, for those of you who don't know, is basically it's like one big Zoom call, if you want to call it that. It's kind of like there's another app that got really popular. I forget what it's called now. I don't know. Maybe somebody in the chat will remember. Something room, not boardroom, blah, 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 something. I forget what it was. Oh man, it's bothering me now. What was it called? Anyway, it was some application where people can come in, anyone can jump into a room. Imagine a Zoom call happening and there's a public link and everyone can jump in, but only a couple people can be on stage, quote unquote, right? To be talking. And So it's kind of like that. And Twitter basically made their own version of it. And DeSantis was in there, and so was Elon. And DeSantis announced his presidency and did his whole thing. And I think we joined in live when it was happening last week, just to kind of see what was going on. And sure enough, there was DeSantis talking about stuff. But this support for DeSantis from Elon Musk, or seemingly kind of a offhand support, and he's been kind of slimy about it too, because Elon's been like, oh, I'll have anybody on, Spaces if they want to come on. But there's some parallels here. There's some strings to attach, because again, let's just hop back to May. MSN mirroring news headline: Kingmaker Rupert Murdoch hosted Ron DeSantis and at his California ranch and told him Fox News will support your bid for president in 2024. So again, we knew about this already for a few weeks here, but you have Rupert Murdoch supporting DeSantis. Murdoch meets with Musk. Musk does Twitter Spaces with DeSantis. Comes out, Murdoch supports DeSantis. There's a little triangle action happening here. So it's very interesting that there's this confluence happening, and they're all doing it as something to run against Trump. Now, I'm not suggesting that this is like they're scared of Trump, and there's some part to that, I'm sure. And hey, Trump still has the big lead when it comes to all the polls, and most people don't foresee him getting displaced by anybody. But I do think that there is something to be said about the tactic being deployed in order to possibly fight against or take votes away from Trump. Let's just put it that way. Of course, things can be rigged. I am all about this idea that our elections have been rigged in one way or another for decades. I really have a hard time trusting the system that we have now, because it's all on somebody else's word. There's no way for the general public to truly audit something when it comes to elections and votes and stuff like that. But the thing that's interesting is the cracks in the armor, so to speak, with DeSantis. And it comes in the form of a spokeswoman. So this was back, this article is from August of 2022. So this is not something that's new. It's been kind of developing. And I'm sure people that have been tracking this have more of a, more cohesive narrative perhaps. But I kind of fell into it all in the last, week or so and try to put something together here. But so this was NBC News back in August of 2022. DeSantis spokeswoman retroactively registers as foreign agent. This lady's name is Christina Pushaw. She did volunteer work for former Georgian President Mikhail Saakashvili, an ally of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky between 2018 and 2020. And I believe she also was at the Zelensky inauguration or something. She did something with Zelensky in Ukraine. And so she was helping DeSantis as a spokeswoman. And so she said, oh yeah, I should probably register as a foreign agent. And so, yes, she officially came in as an what is it called? The FARA, the Foreign Agent Registration something. I don't know. I actually don't know what the FARA is. I did see it somewhere. I'm not seeing it. Right. Is it? Nope, that's not it. No. Anyway, it's the thing that you got to register as a foreign agent, basically. But just to kind of show what the kind of and by the way, Christina Pushaw did step down as the spokeswoman for DeSantis. We'll see a picture of her in a second for those of you watching. But this is from theadvocate.com. I believe this is a left-leaning outlet. And the headline here: homophobic DeSantis campaign staffer cheers at LGBTQ plus families fleeing Florida. This is from a more recent situation here. And there's a picture of Pushaw, which I don't know. There's kind of a Joker thing going on. I don't know. Maybe it's just this photo. But yeah, kind of a weird Joker kind of thing going on with her look. Nothing against her, but it says this in this article: Florida's leadership is thrilled to see LGBTQ plus people leave the state. That's according to the actions of Governor Ron DeSantis' former spokesperson and current campaign staffer, Christina Pushaw. Basically what she did was, there was a Florida Violence or Voice News Twitter feed that mentioned how a majority of queer parents are considering leaving Florida because of the sexual orientation instructions for K through 3, which that sounds insane to me, but okay. And Christina Pashaw's response was retweeting that with a wave like, bye, leave, which is kind of like, yeah, most conservatives will agree with that sentiment. But this Christina Pashaw seems to be, I don't know, kind of a weird background there. She does have a Wikipedia page. She's 32 years old. She studied at the University of California, Johns Hopkins University. And it says here she's an American political aide serving as rapid response director for the 2024 presidential campaign of Ron DeSantis. So she is officially the rapid response director. So yeah, the lady who was kind of hanging out with people in Georgia, the country Georgia, and also around Zelensky, is all of a sudden the DeSantis guy. Is that really the person you want in there as your rapid response director? Which, it's kind of sad in politics that it's always the same. It's like no matter how much people have hope in like a person or situation, they always surround themselves with the old garb. It's never independent to the fullest degree. It's always wrapped up with these people that are involved somehow. And so the sentiment, an anti-DeSantis sentiment, has been created through this Christina Pashaw individual. And so I want to bring you this Daily Dot article that published on June 1st. And the headline of this one, this is Daily Dot, again, a more left progressive outlet. Tom Clancy style story about a CIA asset. Why Trump fans think DeSantis' press secretary is a deep state operative. Again, this is Daily Dot, so they're more Democrat left leaning, and so this is fun for them. They get to watch two sides of the Republican Party kind of eat each other, which is maybe part of the goal. But there's another angle to this. So conspiracy theorists are now convinced that Christina Pashaw, the press secretary for presidential hopeful Ron DeSantis, was implanted by the deep state in order to stop former President Donald Trump. The whole article is about how this right here. Let's see. Instead of merely viewing Murdoch, DeSantis, Pashaw as marginally ideological. Oh, yeah. This right here. Instead of merely viewing Murdoch, DeSantis, and Pashaw, obviously Murdoch and DeSantis and Pashaw, as simply marginally ideologically opposed to Trump, fans of the twice impeached president have cast anyone that isn't him as part of a conspiratorial plot to destroy America. So that's the big thing here. So they're painting Trump supporters as, hey, anybody who's up against Trump, they're part of the deep state. They're trying to destroy Trump, which, again, on one level, I think that's true. I think there is an element in the arena of politics, in the Coliseum of politics. Yes, I can see another Republican candidate try to take out Trump. How would he do that? Well, I don't know. It's going to be kind of tough, I think. But you start a campaign, you bring on Elon Musk, you get the Murdoch engine behind you. You know, all these things. And so they're trying. I don't know that they're going to be successful unless something really bad happens. But, yeah, there's quotes from people. All right. So there's quotes from people on social media saying that Pashaw worked for the CIA, which I don't know. I don't know if there's direct evidence of that. But rest assured, she's definitely part of the system. And again, this Daily Dot article continues to repeat over and over again. Anyone who comes against Trump, in their eyes, must be part of a sinister plot to keep America down. Pashaw herself responded to the debate on Twitter over the weekend, quote, "What's the best oppo you can find on me is that I don't support Putin. I'm okay with that," she wrote. So kind of arrogantly pushing forward here. And it just goes to show this apparatus is always the same. And whenever you get a Murdoch, whenever you get Elon, you get Twitter involved, and you have these weird ties to organizations that are not very favorable to the general public, you're going to have skepticism, But anytime you have skepticism, all of a sudden you're just a Trump supporter that thinks anybody against Trump is a deep state operative. When it's like, yeah, hello, depending on how you define deep state, you can consider Trump to be part of this whole apparatus as well. So, don't give me this whole, it's, Trump supporters, blah, 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 blah. So, interesting. Now, as the other sort of thread to this, and this is where I think whoever's behind this, the social engineers, the controllers of this country, they're playing a game. This is their card. This is their two-pronged or two-needled or two-syringed attack, so to speak. Okay, so you have DeSantis. One of DeSantis's things was anti-vaccination. I mean, he wasn't like anti-vaccine per se, but he was more freedom based on the vaccines, right? A lot of conservatives fell in love with him because of his the way he handled the pandemic, the way he didn't enforce mandates, and all those things. So you have your sort of Republican anti-vax guy, and then we showed the Trump clip of last episode where Trump's like, no, at the time, hey, it was the best idea. People wanted it. People wanted vaccines. I gave them a vaccine. I gave them what they wanted. It's the fastest ever. I'm the greatest. That whole Trump bit with that. So clearly Trump's weakness, if there is any, when it comes to his base, is the vaccine issue. And here we have DeSantis, who's being brought up as another Republican. He is really the only Republican candidate to have a chance against Trump. I don't think Pence, come on. Pence would be more boring than Biden. I mean, at least Biden, you can look at him and go, I think they got the clone out today. It's like, it's just entertainment at the very least, and obviously it's all horrific, all the stuff he's doing. But Pence, oh my gosh, talk about luring an entire country to sleep. Maybe that's the goal, but I don't foresee Pence getting a lot of traction in the primaries. So you have the Republican side sort of internally having a situation where a lot of Trump loyalists are also kind of anti-vaccine or have become more anti-vaccine in the last couple years. And now for the next elections, they have a choice to make. It's like, what do we do? Do we stick to that Trump train, or do we go with someone new and fresh like DeSantis, who understands the vaccine issue and the blah, 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 right? So it's starting to divide the constituency of the Trump voters in that way. But that's only one prong of the attack. Perhaps the other prong is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. This is CNBC.com with the headline from back in May. Again, we're looking back at a lot of stuff that came out in May today as sort of a hindsight is 2020 thing where you can really see the PSYOP coming together. Meet the Wall Street executive funding Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s anti-vaccine group. So now we got Wall Street executives funding RFK Jr. A veteran Wall Street executive told CNBC that he's been helping bankroll RFK Jr.'s anti-vaccine group, and he's become an informal advisor to the organization. Mark Gorton, founder and chairman of high-frequency trading firm Tower Research Capital, said he has given $1 million to the anti-vaccine nonprofit organization called Children's Health Defense since 2021. Kennedy, a longtime vaccine, and gets into Kennedy and his vaccine criticism. But there you go. Big money coming in from this guy, Mark Gorton. And I believe he was also like the CEO of LimeWire or something. He's one of these early internet guys. So again, and he's the Democratic candidate, right? Which appeals to who? Democrats that are a little bit more libertarian, So what do? You, as a Democrat leaning more libertarian, what do? You accept Bitcoin. You become the first presidential candidate to accept Bitcoin. You speak at the Bitcoin conference. You get that whole tech sort of, weirdo people. The maxis, they call them the Bitcoin maximalists. It's, Bitcoin and crypto is its own ecosystem of of hive minds that are just like constantly at war with each other. It's craziness in there. It's really hyped up. I think it's a foreshadowing of how politics will truly look in the next few years here. It's already pretty bad, obviously, but you go into crypto and it's just like, man, yeah, the meme game is strong with everybody. But anyway, so you become the Bitcoin guy. So now you have a Democratic candidate that's pro-Bitcoin. All of a sudden, a lot of your financial people that are looking at Bitcoin as a potential asset to help sustain some kind of US dollar dominance moving forward, or at least relevance, because obviously the dominance is fading. So you got that. And then New York Post this morning published Twitter co-founder Jack Dorsey endorses RFK Jr. in 2024 presidential race. Jack Dorsey, Cash App, obviously a Democrat. So they gave the Democrats a guy that kind of can bridge with certain issues with your more libertarian Republicans in a sense. But you have a Bitcoin guy, an anti-vaccine guy for the Democrats to maybe take away some votes from Trump. And then you have your Republican guy who may not make it, obviously, right, to the final part of the elections. And so, hey, just, if push comes to shove, here's the thing that's crazy. All the DeSantis supporters, should DeSantis lose in the primaries, all the DeSantis voters could vote for RFK Jr. because their ideologies align more with RFK than they do with Trump, because the biggest issues being, finance, Bitcoin. Trump is anti-Bitcoin, anti-crypto, and vaccines. Trump he's anti-mandates, but he's the guy who made the vaccine, so he's never going to talk against the creation of the mRNA vaccines and how fast they were published and brought to market. And so it's interesting. I find it a very fascinating landscape forming for the 2024 elections, where there's just new tactics being deployed. Maybe not new. They're the same tactics, but maybe done so in an era where there's more awareness about the PSYOP in plain sight. And because the social engineers must know that there's more awareness. So they too will deploy things that shake things up, come out of left field, things that people didn't expect. And we'll see more and more of that. And I think part of it is the whole, hey, we're going to crash woke. We're going to destroy the woke thing that we created. And listen, all we do is talk about how in the woke conversation, the conversation being had is, the LGBTQ plus SSW, the whole gamut, they're all being marginalized. They're all not being talked about. They're being discriminated. Well, guess what? First of all, they weren't. I mean, maybe culturally, socially, in certain situations, they found themselves in a circumstance where they got bullied or something like that. That happens to everybody, even if they're not trans or gay or whatever. So, but anyway, maybe there's some stigma there in culture, whatever. But in general, they more or less have the same kind of rights as anybody else in this country, at least in America. But all we do is talk about how oppressed they are. Well, guess what? I think as the pendulum swing is on the right side and really hitting its peak on the right, the pendulum swinging fully right, we will see, not just the pendulum start moving the other direction, but having that, oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought with the whole trans thing. Blah. Hold on. What was I saying? So basically I was saying that there's oh my gosh. What was the point? Oh no. This is what happens when I talk too much and I'm looking forward to the next thing. What was it about? Let's see. We have rights. Cody, ACC account. What is it? Cody's ACC in the chat. We have rights? Well, I mean, in principle, right? I mean, I get that there's certain things that we don't have rights in this country. It's sort of a facade in many ways, but they're the principle wise and in certain sense, we do have some rights. But and what I mean is, I remember what I mean. All we do is talk about how marginalized the gay community and the whatever, all these communities are. What we are doing with all the movement and all the policies and everything shifting right, we are actually making them into true minorities, true, individuals who are not oppressed is too strong of a word, but maybe, marginalized in the sense of certain policies. And, on the surface, it's kind of like, yeah, we don't want kids to be reading these ridiculous books in high school and college and stuff like that. But then you have like the people in Florida saying, we're leaving. It's like, okay, go ahead, leave. Like, honestly, it's not a big deal. But the minority people had a majority voice in mainstream media, especially in the last 20 years. They were really, really highlighted as like, hey, equality, all this kind of stuff. I think they're crashing that whole thing, allowing for, and this is how the ebb and flow works, is they let it crash. They'll profit from it, which again, the whole Budweiser, Target, I'm sure there'll be other countries that go super woke all of a sudden. You're like, what are they doing? Their stock tanks. Somebody is making a killing off that tanking and maybe even consolidating and buying up those outlets and then having more control as things come up. But you have your small fragment of people that are all in on the trans thing. They're going transhuman. They're going genetic engineering. They're going that way. But as long as the pendulum is on the right side of the aisle and it's looking for its sort of apex before it starts swinging hard the other way, they're going to capitalize on that. They're going to try to make as much money as possible and try to control the narrative as much as possible. And that's what I see happening here, where they're really resetting. I know it's a kind of a stigmatized word right now because the Great Reset, and we've talked about Klaus, and we've been talking about that issue for a long time, well before a majority of the public knew what the World Economic Forum even was. But they really are, if you pay attention, they're resetting the stage. They're resetting, or at least they're trying to reset the right-left paradigm right before our eyes. Because even with Trump, you might get some more Democrat, like traditional Democrat support for Trump. It'd be very interesting to see how this all plays out. But whatever happens in 2024, because most people think Trump's going to win, he's going to have his 4 years, which, sure, that probably will happen, but I don't know. There are a lot of theories. Nobody really knows. The Lord knows. But I would argue that no matter what happens in 2024, by 2028, we're going to see a completely different Republican Party, and we're going to see a completely different Democratic Party. That's just my trajectory on this, because, I don't like politics in general because it's so tiresome, because you get lost in the weeds and you find yourself in these tangled up arguments that don't matter. As soon as you start arguing something, you took the bait, right? You're stuck in that conversation, in that argument. And no matter how much of a poignant point you have regarding this other person who's wrong, and you have the facts and everything else, you get sucked into these conversations about border control and blah, 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 all these issues. But really, it's about not just votes. Votes don't matter as much. It's the economic flow and the cultural influence that politics has that I'm more interested in. And I pay attention to in the sociological sense, because I think that does a lot more in shaping where culture is going and our governance is going than simply who is president. Who is president matters, of course, but the culture surrounding it matters more, in my opinion. So there you go. That's my big old rant. How long was that? Whoa, that was almost an hour. I just rambled on for a little bit too long there on this Monday.
Gary, what day is it? Monday. Monday.
Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mondays.
Gary, what day is it? Monday.
It is Monday. What am I doing? Here we go. I'm just checking to make sure. Didn't get anything else from Basil. Ooh, I got a message from somebody y'all might know. Interesting. Kind of fun little thing there. Yeah, so over the weekend, new house, still that third car garage is still just storage right now. I'm getting a little nervous about the timing of the move of the office, because We still got to get a electrician in there, and there's a few things that need to be done. But I think we'll get done, and within 2 weeks, maybe before the end of the month for sure, I will be in a completely new office. So that's going to be pretty cool. But in the meantime, it's just been a lot of moving and family and hanging out. And we actually we live right next to a lake now, a big old lake, and we walked around yesterday with the family, and it was nice and it was really cool. But these ducks, there's so many ducks and these geese, they're everywhere. And actually, there's a whole bird ecosystem in our backyard, and there's a mockingbird that sings all night long. And so me and my wife were doing some research, and we found out that it was probably a mockingbird. And usually what they cry to look for their mate, their forever mate. And so every night I'm like, will somebody just date this bird? This poor bird has been trying to impress the lady mockingbirds for days now, just singing all night long. Like, somebody please take this guy to I don't know, bird restaurant or something, bird Italian food. They can have their little, spaghetti noodle kissy moment. All right. Okay. So that was my weekend. Hope ever your weekend was more interesting and entertaining. All right. Let's see. Well, yeah, we operate on the value for value model, which we talk about every episode because we have to, because that's how we operate. And that means we don't have any corporate influence. We don't have any communist influence, no cartel influence. We're just the canary in the coal mine, pointing to the way, the truth, and the life. And we create this content. We make it available for free. We don't have any paywalls. We don't have affiliate codes. We got none of that. And if you get any value out of the show, please consider providing value back in the form of volunteering your time, contributing with your talent, or, of course, pitching in with your treasure. And right now, we're going to thank our producers who came in with their treasures, specifically at the top here, the executive producers.
Executive producers.
Executive producers are those who come in with a little bit extra per episode, more than $100. And we honor them at the top here because they are really stepping it up. And so we want the entire community of listeners to thank them, as they are the ones that are really walking the walk, or walking the talk. Sure. Yeah. They're producing the show executively. So they are executive producers. And we got a couple of them today. I believe they came in during the last episode maybe, but I didn't get them. So we'll get it today. The first one, first off, before I do them, I do want to say thank you to Marine M. I did see a note from Marine M, who was executive producer for 7 episodes in a row. I believe that was on the last episode. And she actually sent a note that said she was trying to do 7 executive producerships in a row. So thank you very much, Marine M. And I am almost positive that makes you a dame. So if she's not a dame already, is she a dame already? I got to check that out. But Marine M, let us know. Okay, so we got a couple executive producers today. First one is David B. David B coming in with a nice round number. Thank you very much. We don't read round numbers. We like to keep that anonymous. That'll be our signal if it's a round, clean number. If it's a weird number with weird numbers, we'll know to read it. But this one, round number. Thank you very much, David B., our executive producer for episode 630.
Where'd you find this?
We also had a second executive producer, and that is Felicia D. Canary. Oh, wrong button. Felicia D. Sorry about that. Felicia D comes in with another round number. Appreciate it. And I didn't see a note from Felicia D either. So there you go. Those are our executive producers. Felicia D, thank you very much.
Where'd you find this?
And if you'd like to become an executive producer, please go to canarycry.support. canarycryradio.com/support. Yeah, you can go to canarycryradio.com/support too, but we also have canarycry.support I know we got to fix. We got a lot of things we got to fix. But there you go. We're going to run through and thank the other producers who came in with their treasure. Let me do one quick refresh just to make sure here, because I do not want to miss anybody who is important to thank on this rainy Monday. It's raining here in California, or was this morning. A little gloomy. Okay, no one extra. So, all right, let's go ahead and thank some of these producers here real quick. First up, Morgan E. Thank you very much, Morgan E. Is on a streak of 36 episodes in a row. Thank you, Morgan E. I think I missed Morgan E on Friday. So, the streak continues today. Thank you very much. Next up, I believe this is Firewater 777. I think that's what it is. Yeah, thank you very much. Coming in with 1111. Thank you, Firewater 777. Next up, we have Sir Morv, Knight of the Burning Chariots, coming in 777. 237 episodes in a row.
Oh yeah, streakalicious.
You're almost at that 250 streak, so you're getting close there, Sir Morv. Thanks for the producership. Good to see you. And then we have, I believe that's it for now. I might be missing a couple people, but I do know that there are some coming in under 777 that need to be thanked. They are Sir Casey the Shield Knight, Dame Gail Canary Whisper and Lady of X's and O's, Veronica D, and Sir Scott Knight of Truth. They are each well over 200 episodes in a row.
Oh yeah, streakalicious.
And that's almost 300. It's 291 for Sir Scott Knight of Truth and 306 for Sir Casey. 268 for both Dame Gail and Veronica D. So thank you very much to both of you, or all of you. And thank you for your patronage.
Shut up and take my money. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your patronage.
All right, today's episode is structured a little weird because I knew I was going to go on a kind of a longer rant at the top with all this politics stuff. And then I wanted to thank some producers and then go on a secondary, like a second half of show rant kind of thing. Try to divide it up a little bit. Been messing with the structure. If anybody has something they liked about the structure change or experiment or hated, let us know. Just email us, canarycryradio@gmail.com or canarycryradio@protonmail.com. And time for a Flippy update. And Flippy, yes, Flippy is the disembodied, there's a colloquial, blah, blah. Let me start over. Flippy is our colloquial name for the disembodied robot arms that are taking our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. We use talking about Flippy as a way to explore the fun and exciting ways that robots are taking over the world and how there's nothing we can do about it. Been doing it forever. And today, TechExplore.com headline, a plant-inspired controller that can facilitate the operation of robotic arms in real-world environments. Okay, now we've seen some plant robots before. If you recall, there was this was a couple of years ago, there was a Venus flytrap that got kind of cyborgified. We reported on this when it first came out, that somebody had made like a Venus flytrap cyborg. There was also the story about Elon, the plant-robot hybrid. It's basically a little pot of plant on wheels. It's got like some robotic chips in there. And then also the robot plant biohybrids being grown in European laboratories. That was way back in 2016. And it's funny because the IEEE Spectrum headline is Robot Plant Hybrids Growing in European Laboratories. I don't know what a robot plant hybrid is, but I'm sure there's a horror movie in there somewhere. Hey. So there you go. Those are some a little bit of the history when it comes to robots and plants. Let's see how this might be a little bit different. Many existing robotic systems draw inspiration from nature, artificially produced biological processes, natural structures, or animal behaviors to achieve specific goals. This is because animals and plants are innately equipped with abilities that help them to survive in their respective environments. And that could thus also improve the performance of robots outside of laboratory settings. Researchers at the Brain-Inspired Robotics, that's Brayer Lab, Biorobotics Institute of Santana's School of Advanced Study in Italy and National University of Singapore recently developed a plant-inspired controller that could improve the performance of robotic arms in unstructured real-world environments. This controller, introduced in the paper presented at the conference IEEE RoboSoft 2023 in Singapore and selected among the finalists for the Best Student Paper Award, specifically allows robot arms to complete tasks that involve reaching specific locations or objects in their surrounding. Feels like the bar is set a little low on this, but okay. Quote, soft robot arms are a new generation of robotic manipulators that take inspiration from the advanced manipulation capabilities exhibited by boneless organisms such as octopus tentacles, elephant trunks, plants, etc. Enrico Donato, one of the researchers who carried out the study, told Tech Explorer, quote, translating these principles into engineering solutions results in systems that are made up of flexible, lightweight materials that can undergo smooth, elastic deformations to produce compliant and dexterous motion. Due to these desirable characteristics, these systems conform to surfaces and exhibit physical robustness and human-safe operation at potentially low cost. It's all about low cost, high output. That's what they're going for. As most existing controllers for soft robots are found to primarily perform well in laboratory environments, Donato and his colleagues set out to create a new type of controller that can also be applicable in real-world environments. The controller they proposed is inspired by the movements and behavior of plants. Yay. Quote, contrary to the common misconception that plants do not move. Who believes that plants do not move? I don't know anybody who believes that plants don't move. Now, okay, plants don't run away. If we're talking about plants moving, most people know that plants grow and they change and they move. I don't know anybody who's like, the plants don't move, man. Very strange way to put it. Contrary to the common misconception that plants do not move, plants actively and purposefully move from one point to another using movement strategies based on growth, Donato said. Quote, these strategies are so effective that plants can colonize almost all habitats on the planet, a capability lacking in the animal kingdom. Interestingly, unlike animals, plant movement strategies do not stem from a central nervous system, but rather they arise because of sophisticated forms of decentralized computing mechanisms. Oh, okay. We got a crypto plant robot bro here. Okay, so plants move based on strategies, but they don't have a central nervous system. They have sophisticated forms of decentralized computing mechanisms. Oh boy. You know how I've been ranting about the quantization of creation? How everything is being quantified into a data set, that everything is measurable. There's a unit of measurement for everything. And it will be the same with any ability of an animal or a human or anything like that. In this case, a plant. You know, one of the topics discussed earlier, I remember Tom Horn wrote an article about this a long time ago, how in transhumanism, part of the early discussions of transhumanism was, hey, could we get certain aspects of plants, their genetic material, to help humans achieve certain abilities that plants have, you know, and so on. The control strategy underpinning the functioning of the researchers' controller tries to replicate the sophisticated decentralized mechanism underpinning the movements of plants. The team specifically used behavior-based artificial intelligence tools, which consist of decentralized computing agents combined in a bottom-up structure. A lot of computing and AI going on for plants, being like the super controller of robots. Kind of weird. Let's see here. They're going to test it in the future. Quote, "We're currently looking to enhance the capabilities of the controller to enable more complex behaviors, such as target tracking, whole arm twinning, etc., to enable such systems to function in natural environments for long periods of time." All right. So, the other robot plant story that I didn't have here was, and I didn't have it here because it was just an art piece, but if you recall, there was that art piece where they connected a robot arm with a machete to a plant. And I remember it was like a plant with a machete and a robot arm. So, yeah, again, stuff like this has been done for a while. It's just interesting how they're getting into the nitty gritty, like the actual Legos of it all, the building blocks of something like this. It's not just some art project. They're really getting into it. And it does sort of, I think this speaks to, and this is trying to speak to what is, there's the Gaia angle, the nature worship stuff, but also the sort of consciousness of plants and trees and stuff. But it really starts to make sense, propaganda outlets like Groot. You guys know Groot. He's the fictional character from Marvel. Appears in, made famous in the Guardians of the Galaxy series, the movies that recently came out. You got the baby Groot and the whole thing. What's interesting, Groot is an extraterrestrial sentient tree-like creature. The original Groot first appeared as an invader that intended to capture humans for experimentation. Isn't that ironic? And listen to this. This is just the origin stories of Groot. I'm tying this into the whole narrative with the Nephilim. And this could almost be a Nephilim update, but the whole plant robot flippy. Okay. Groot is a flora colossus from Planet X, the capital of the branch worlds. Groot is from Planet X. I don't know. It's just kind of fiction meets reality or something. The flora colossi are ruled over by the Arbor Masters and teach the children of the species with photonic knowledge, which is the collected knowledge of the Arbor Masters of the generations and is absorbed through photosynthesis. This is a highly advanced education method, making the flora colossi geniuses. I mean, think about that. You just absorb the knowledge through photosynthesis, not through any kind of studying. The flora colossus sapling would come to be known as Groot, came from an ennobled sapline and was gifted with a tremendous grasp of quasi-dimensional superpositional engineering. Quasi-dimensional superpositional engineering. Sounds like science fiction, Marvel Comics googly gook. But maybe it's more. It's the technology behind the flying things.
You don't know what you're looking at.
What's driving that thing? It's not a space alien.
Aliens. It's unidentified. Aliens. Aliens. There's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are.
It's blowing up. The UFO aliens, they've been confirmed. And we'll read that story from, the parts of it anyway, from debrief.org. But before I do, New York Times had this headline. Was it this morning? Was it yesterday? Yesterday morning. Sonic boom heard across D.C. area was from military jets, officials say. The noise, which startled residents and shook buildings, was heard after the jets scrambled when a small plane entered restricted airspace. It was later found wrecked. So there was a loud noise in the D.C. area. 2 fighter jets were sent from Joint Base Andrews after a Cessna entered the restricted airspace, prompting the emergency response to intercept the flight, the officials confirmed on Sunday. The private aircraft's owner said in a telephone interview that 4 people, including his daughter and granddaughter, were on the plane. The spokeswoman for the Virginia State Police said in a statement on Monday that about 4 hours after receiving a report of an aircraft crash, emergency responders were able to reach the wreckage by foot. No survivors were located. The occupants of the aircrafts will be identified once information becomes available. The North American Aerospace Defense Command, or NORAD, which oversees aerospace control over the U.S. and Canada, said in a statement that 2 F-16 jets were deployed on Sunday after the Cessna 560 Citation V flew over Washington and North Virginia. NORAD said that the fighter jets, quote, were authorized to travel at supersonic speeds, which would have produced the boom that was heard in the region, and by some reporters was noticed as far as the suburbs in Virginia and Maryland. The NORAD aircraft also uses flares that may have been visible from the ground, the agency said, quote, in an attempt to draw attention from the pilot. Okay, so there's concern about who was on this flight. Of course, this was reported that the vehicle crashed into the terrains of the mountain nearby there around 3:30 p.m., so you got your 33. And then this strange... there's always some. Let me just say this: if the Hollywood television shows have taught us anything when it comes to predictive programming, whenever they have stories like this, and you have the general public that sees or hears something that's a little out of the ordinary, first off, they always report it. There always is a mainstream report. And then secondly, there's always like a real natural military explanation, but it's still kind of a troubling military explanation. Like, who are these people? Why are you sending F-16s? Like, what is going? What happened? So really, it could be any number of things. Who knows? But normally in the TV shows, it's your superhero or your vigilante or whatever doing something and causing an issue or making something go boom. So it's always something like that. So that you need the cover story, which doesn't make much sense or has its own sort of weird, confusing twists and turns that would take the trail off of somebody trying to figure out what really happened that day. So I only bring that up because the social climate of aliens, the whole conversation in light of this whole, there's a loud boom in the sky. Oh, it's just a sonic boom. But why are there people on a plane? It's just weird stuff happening in the skies. But really, what's going on with the UFOs? Give us the lowdown. The debrief.org, which I couldn't really get a grasp on exactly what this outlet is, but the headline here, a lot of people are sharing it. Intelligence officials say U.S. has retrieved craft of non-human origin. Oh, it's starting to happen. We need L.A. Marzulli back on. Maybe L.A. will do a Canary Cry Radio pretty soon here. A former intelligence official turned whistleblower has given Congress and the intelligence community inspector general extensive classified information about deeply covert programs that he says possess retrieved intact and partially intact craft of non-human origin. Hello. What? That's just the place we went and got food. The information, he says, has been illegally withheld from Congress, and he filed a complaint alleging that he suffered illegal retaliation for his confidential disclosures, reported here for the first time. Other intelligence officials, both active and retired, with knowledge of these programs through their work in various agencies, have independently provided similar corroborating information, both on and off the record. The whistleblower, David Charles Grush, 36, a decorated former combat officer in Afghanistan, is a veteran of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, NGA, and the National Reconnaissance Office, NRO. He served as the Reconnaissance Office's representative to the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task from 2019 to 2021. From late 2021 to July 2022, he was the NGA's co-lead for UAP analysis and its representative to the task force. The task force was established to investigate what were once called unidentified flying objects, or UFOs, and are now officially called UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomenon. Whoa, people yelling and screaming. So I'm going to close the door, but I'm going to play the space jingle in the meantime.
Space Force.
Space Force.
Spaceship.
They make their sound, which is kind of like
a spaceship.
Space Force.
Yeah, what about Space Force? Where's Space Force in all this? Grush said recoveries of partial fragments up to intact vehicles have been made for decades through the present day by the government, its allies, and defense contractors. Analysis has determined that the objects retrieved are, quote, of exotic origin, parentheses, non-human intelligence, whether extraterrestrial or unknown origin, based on the vehicle morphologies and material science testing and the possession of unique atomic arrangements and radiological signatures, he said. In filing his complaint, Grush is represented by a lawyer who served as the original intelligence community inspector general. Quote, "We are not talking about prosaic origins or identities," Grush said, referencing information he provided Congress and the current ICIG. Quote, "The material includes intact and partially intact vehicles." In accordance with protocol, Grush provided the Defense Office of Pre-Publication and Security Review at the Department of Defense excuse me, throat getting itchy. Where was I? My eyes got all watery trying to cough out the cough. In accordance with all right. Anyway, they're opening stuff up. This guy Grush made some disclosures, claims that we have vehicles. Let me just read this here. Grush's disclosures and those of non-public witnesses under new protective provisions of the latest defense appropriations bill signal a growing determination by some in the government to unravel a colossal enigma with national security implications that has bedeviled the military and tantalized the public going back to World War II and beyond. I think that's important because the whole breakaway civilization narrative, not saying that it's true, but the narrative is that we are post World War II, and a lot of the loot called Yamashita's gold, which was basically Yamashita, the Japanese emperor, ravaged a lot of the wealth and precious stones and gold and all kinds of stuff, pillaged a lot of Eastern Asia, China, also I think Vietnam too, maybe, I forget all the, well, it was pretty bad. But anyway, to hide all that stuff, allegedly, Yamashita hid that treasure on the Philippine Islands. And there are stories about how, weird sound. There's stories about General MacArthur going to Japan, meeting Yamashita, and making deals with them as far as having access to this wealth. And there's a whole, I actually wrote a book, not a book about that, but it was included in the book I wrote 10 years ago that never got published on the whole breakaway civilization conversation. So there you go. 10 years ago, I could have been writing, could have been a book publisher on topics that are becoming mainstream now, but whatever. And the story was that gold or that wealth that the Americans got their hands on through some kind of deal with Japan funded a breakaway civilization, a sort of underground military, even beyond black budget program to create advanced technology. And of course, there are theories about, maybe they got some crafts to reverse engineer at Roswell. There's all these different narratives surrounding how specifically they got the tech or what tech they got, how to blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting that a intelligence whistleblower is coming out and basically saying or kind of reiterating or delivering the breakaway civilization narrative in his own way, in a sense. So this article is, we won't go through the whole thing. I know we don't go through a lot of articles all the way through because if it was just about reading the article, people can do that on their own. We're just trying to summarize some things here and bring you the hard-hitting things about it, if there are any. But a lot of people are freaking out about it. And there's some quotes in here that I think people got really, really stoked about. Let's see. Grush left the government on April 7th, 2023 in order, he said, to advance government accountability through public awareness. He left the government to bring government accountability through public awareness. I'm sorry, I just don't buy. What reason do I have to believe that this guy isn't still working as part of some kind of opposition? A plant. You would have to leave the government, quote unquote, to fulfill the operation of holding the government accountable. It's like, all right. He remains well supported within intelligence circles. Aha! And numerous sources have vouched for his credibility. Quote, his assertion concerning the existence of a terrestrial arms race occurring sub rosa over the past 80 years, focused on reverse engineering technologies of unknown origin, is fundamentally correct, as is the indisputable realization that at least some of these technologies of unknown origin derive from non-human intelligence, said Carl Nell, the retired Army colonel who worked with Grush on the UAP task force. So these people that have been working on this task force for the last couple of years are all coming out and saying, it's almost like they read all the Breakaway Civilization books and they're like, yeah, let's just go with that. That'll be the narrative. That'll be the thing that we tell everybody. In 2022 performance evaluation, Laura A. Potter, Deputy Chief of Staff for Intelligence Headquarters, Deputy Department of the Army, described Nell as, quote, an officer with the strongest possible moral compass. So these are guys that are being touted as highly credible in the military, and they are coming out and really laying thick on the idea that we have non-human technology. Now, non-human does not mean alien. It doesn't, especially alien in the sense of, hey, they came from another planet or somewhere out there. No. This could have something to do with non-humans in this era or this age. Perhaps a subhuman or a hybrid human of some kind, with access to divine intelligence, divine knowledge of creation. Might be type of group to maybe possess this type of information. Now, the trickling of disclosure has been occurring for a few years now, obviously, and it's gotten more and more intense as time has gone on. And I think and even still, there hasn't been that thing that really shakes everyone, really rattles everyone's cages. I feel like we haven't really had that yet, but it may be getting closer. And, I've been ranting and ranting about how our elite, at the human level, our elite have some technology that's way advanced. Not just way advanced in the context of, hey, maybe a few years, they got cooler iPhones or something. No, they're probably like way, way, way advanced. And it's probably been funded for the last century or so. So that's why it's called a breakaway civilization. Tim Alberino tweeted out this story and had this as part of his tweet. He said, abandon the demon theory of UFOs, as it is insufficient to account for what is being will be disclosed in the coming days. I don't know what Tim Alberino knows, but I get what he's saying. Some people might think, what are you talking about? How is this not a demonic thing? But I think what he means is that this whole UFO thing is not, because a lot of Christians, good, well-meaning Christians, I've heard this all the time. It's all demonic. Well, let's get a little more specific. You can say that, yes, there's obviously demonic elements to this, according to the biblical narrative, if we are to address this UFO topic from that angle, which of course we do here, and there's a lot of sense that is made if you do that. Horses and chariots of fire. There's also the millstone conversation. There's the ephah in the Old Testament. So there's a lot of weird things that are in there that suggest something like this, supernatural like this. But I get what Tim Alberino is saying. Typically when Christians talk about, oh, it's demonic, what they mean is that it's non-physical, that it's sort of ethereal. There's no physical thing going on here. It's all spiritual. It may be interdimensional in some sense, but it's not like a hard-hitting physical thing. And so if Tim Alberino is saying, abandon the demon theory, if he means demon theory as it's only a non-physical phenomenon, then okay, I can agree with you there. But you can almost make it all-encompassing, because you talk about a breakaway civilization, you talk about advanced technologies, you can say that this knowledge comes from the Watchers, and the Watchers are the ones that produce the Nephilim, and the Nephilim are the ones that became the demons. And so you can say it's demonic in that sense. It's all part of the system that encompasses demons. But demons, or the demonic aspect of it, is an element of this greater picture, not the whole thing, in a sense, if that makes sense. So in that regard, I think what Tim is getting at here is there's a physical property to this. Some kind of physical medium that is going to be revealed, perhaps. And to that, I think it's important to try to understand as believers, okay, what part of this is simply the mechanisms of creation, as in God created the world. He's the one that holds this creation together. And within his design of creation are certain ways to harness perhaps electromagnetism, something of that nature, anti-gravity. Perhaps there's a way to harness those aspects of creation and become hypermobile, be able to move quickly in different, whatever. Defy the currently understood laws of physics, or currently accepted laws of physics. And so, yeah, again, it'll be important to understand, okay, what part of it is just, hey, these guys are just tapping into God's creation, and what part of it is, this is full blown, this is like, might as well have, the little name tag on the side of the UFO with like Satan, on the side. Like, it's just, because it's the same thing with any technology. Even a sword, if you think about it, as simple as a sword, it is a violent tool meant for cutting, usually an opponent of some kind, or something that is threatening to you, a physical threat. But also it can be symbolic of leadership or authority. And it could be a good thing. In the Bible, it talks about the word of God maybe coming out of Jesus' mouth himself as a two-edged sword. So it could be a good thing, but also could be used bad. So I think I get what Tim's getting at here with this, is that if we hear some things about, this new technology, this non-human technology, well, okay, let's slow down. Doesn't mean aliens. It could mean another race. And also I've noticed a lot of Atlantis talk recently, especially with the popularity of the, I forget the guy's name, content creator who's making videos about the Eye of Sahara. which is a circular, kind of a concentric circular area in Africa. The Risha structure, the Risha, it's R-I-C-H-A-T. And the guy who makes the video, again, I forget his name, but he does a great job of comparing Plato's explanation of Atlantis with the Risha structure, and really just almost making a perfect match of connections that, hey, maybe Atlantis was something that existed right around the Eye of Sahara, and maybe the Risha structure is ancient Atlantis. So all these ancient civilization talks taking place. And saying non-human leaves the door open for all kinds of stuff. And so I don't know what they're planning to reveal. I think Antarctica has something to do with this. Maybe they've been housing the technology there for a long time. But it's becoming very interesting nonetheless. But I think as believers, we need to stay grounded here. Don't fly off the handle. Don't just start calling everything demonic with a generic brush, because you'll lose the detail. You'll lose a lot of nuance. You'll lose even perhaps the arguments for the existence of God that might be found within whatever technologies they have here. Because if it is technology that somehow defies currently understood, laws of physics, and it checks out, I mean, it's going to fundamentally change everything. And maybe that's been the plan all along. And perhaps the elite, because they bowed to Satan, right? And they were able to get the authority of the kingdoms of earth. Perhaps they are the ones to facilitate this and get it out there. Now, to piggyback on this story about the technology, the intelligence official saying that the U.S. has retrieved craft of non-human origin, and we have for decades. I want to bring this article here from Eureka Alert, and the headline here is engineers at UMass Amherst engineers at UMass Amherst harvest abundant clean energy from thin air. Right from the air, you get free energy. A team of engineers at the University of Massachusetts Amherst has recently shown that nearly any material can be turned into a device that continuously harvests electricity from humidity in the air. The secret lies in being able to pepper the material with nanopores less than 100 nanometers in diameter. The research appeared in the journal Advanced Materials. This is very exciting, says Xiaomeng Liu, a graduate student in electrical and computer engineering in UMass's Amherst College of Engineering and the paper's lead author. Quote, "We are opening up a wide door for harvesting clean electricity from thin air." Harvesting clean electricity from thin air. Do you know who else did that? Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla. And so now, a lot of the Elon thing, having Tesla as one of his companies, all that stuff starts to make sense. It's almost like they've kept Tesla tech hidden for not centuries, but decades at the very least, maybe about a century. And it's time to start releasing it to the public. But first of all, the elite probably have a crazy head start. And is it possible that they're saying that it's of non-human origin because the same kind of advancing of technology in general created non-humans? You think about, we talk a lot about brain-machine interfaces. We talk a lot about AI and how, everyone's talking about AI now. It's just mainstream conversation now. And you think about what a lot of the transhumanists, singularitarians, they all discuss how we are waiting for this singularity moment where knowledge goes parabolic, and we can't predict what's going to happen when that happens. Intelligence of the machine goes parabolic, it becomes sentient, whatever. And Elon Musk, others have proposed the idea of, hey, we got to merge with AI before it takes us over. And of course, we've seen the progress in brain-computer interfaces with Neuralink and all that kind of stuff. But I'm always, and again, I don't have hard evidence for this. These are gut feelings and based on a particular fringy, weird, critical worldview that I have, which to me is grounded in biblical passages about the kings of the earth conspire against the Lord and things of that nature, but in Psalm 2. But couldn't it be possible that some kind of brain-computer interfacing, they've been working on it for a long time, somewhere in the dark alleys, right? That's not publicly. I mean, like somewhere, if they're doing it publicly, that somebody without restrictions has done it somewhere. And who knows if there's, official people that know, or I don't know. I wouldn't know, but I would imagine that if there's a way to do it, or there's a known possibility of certain things that shouldn't be done ethically, I believe they have been done somewhere in some laboratory somewhere. And so if a human being is able to interface their mind with a machine, with perhaps the internet, right? And they're able to process all this information very, very rapidly and truly create some kind of singularity humanoid. A former government guy can come out and say non-human intelligence or non-human origin. And it could literally be just enhanced humans, right? Non-human in our current form, but maybe human in some kind of technological form, cyborg, transhuman, whatever. And then because they're so advanced in knowledge, they're able to piece together whatever thing they had there, or whatever craft they recovered or parts they recovered, or come up with the equations and everything that one would need to solve some of the mathematical challenges that come up when it comes to the problem with UAPs and physics and blah 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 blah. But in this case, this team of researchers figuring out a way to get electricity just right out of the air and have free energy. I think someone in the back room has figured out how to monetize free energy, quote unquote. And I think they know that the only way to do it is something akin to a Neuralink or microchipping. Because if the energy itself is free, then something else has to be commoditized. And that will become the data, right? Your data, most likely. Human data, probably the most valuable for the social engineers and the breakaway elite. So that's where I see this going. And the fact that they continue to use the words like harvest, they use the word harvest and harvester like 3 or 4 times in this article about the free energy. And they're harvesting electricity out of the air. And you can use any material to do it. What about like human bodies? Can you use human bodies? Yeah, probably. Like, all right, great. This is all turning into the Matrix now. It's all the movies. It's Skynet. It's Matrix. It's literally all the bad movies becoming reality. Congratulations, everybody. We're living in the times of craziness. Hey, but it's also a great time to witness because, my goodness, there aren't a whole lot of things that have explanatory power in this world, this crazy world unfolding. But I would argue the biblical narrative is one that is becoming more and more relevant, especially understanding the ancient things, the days of Noah stuff.
But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be.
Helping explain the wild things we're doing now. There's nothing new under the sun. And this brings us to the last story I have for today, which is the Metaverse.
Welcome to the Metaverse.
New York Times. Apple is stepping into the Metaverse. Will anyone care? Good old New York Times. It says here, Mark Zuckerberg embraced a digital world known as the Metaverse. First of all, okay, already New York Times. They make it sound like there's one Metaverse. There isn't. The metaverse is like a concept, right? Anyway, Mark Zuckerberg embraced the digital world known as the metaverse when he said in November 2021 that he was changing his company name from Facebook to Meta. A month later, Microsoft founder Bill Gates wrote that within 2 or 3 years, he believed most virtual meetings would transition from two-dimensional grids of video to the metaverse, a 3D space with digital avatars. Soon after, Microsoft announced that it would spend $70 billion to buy the video game giant Activision Blizzard, and said the deal would, quote, provide building blocks for the metaverse. Hey, build blocks better back in the metaverse, like Minecraft. But since then, interest in the metaverse has stalled. I don't think it truly, I mean, yes, in the general public, yes, but anyway, technology investors have moved on to new trends like artificial intelligence, and some metaverse projects have been shuttered at companies like Disney and Microsoft despite the burst of enthusiasm. Enter Apple. At its Worldwide Developers Conference starting on Monday, that's today, the tech giant is expected to debut its virtual reality hardware product, high-tech goggles that blend together the digital and physical worlds. Oh, hey, look. I don't know how many times on the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel I ranted about the blending of digital and physical worlds. But it's just crazy to me that I'm the crazy guy 10 years ago talking about it. I'm the guy that the fake news, medical misinformation, shut me down, shut people like us down. They're not trying to digitize the world. What are you talking about? They're not trying to blend together digital and physical. And then Apple comes out and says, we're trying to blend digital and physical with our little goggles. It's like, man, you know, I really should. In another life, I probably would have been like a really successful marketing PR guy for these companies because I can feed them the language they need to make things sound nice. The company is betting that it can tempt customers with mixed reality products better than Meta, whose high-end Quest Pro headsets have not sold well, and that it can ignite mainstream interest in virtual reality in a way that other companies have not. The Apple headset is expected to cost about $3,000 and will look like ski goggles, according to current and former employees familiar with its development. Apple has done this before. Eventual hits like the iPod, iPhone, and Apple Watch started in niche markets that grew into big business. But even Apple executives have been skeptical about the company's prospect in virtual reality, which they say may still not be ready for its mainstream moment. Apple declined to comment, and then blah, 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 all the AI stuff, immersive technology, blah, 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 blah. We've heard it all before. More on Zuckerberg, blah, blah, blah. Mark Zuckerberg and his meats. A Meta spokeswoman, Ashley Zandy, said, quote, we've always been clear that our metaverse vision is a long-term one, and nothing about that has changed. We are committed to our metaverse vision, and we're seeing good momentum. On Thursday, Mr. Zuckerberg teased a version of the MetaQuest 3, the company's latest VR headset, which will cost $500 and may come this year. Consumers have spent more than $1.5 billion on apps and games in Meta's Quest App Store to date. For Apple, its new headset could be the beginning of a long-term plan that eventually leads to a more popular virtual reality product like a lightweight pair of glasses. Yeah, and so look, this is, we know the metaverse thing became mainstream, but it was going to take some time. It wasn't going to happen overnight. But really, all of this is to prepare for the next crisis that will really get everyone into the metaverse. You know, the COVID-19 pandemic, quote unquote, got everyone on Zoom, got everyone, isolated in their homes on Zoom. Next time around, they will probably want prediction, maybe a red book prediction, but I don't know. The next time they do like a pandemic or whatever, and everyone has to quarantine across the world, the things that we will be able to do at home, like VR, AR, metaverse visits, stuff like that, it will be so far advanced from where we are now. That's why I think it'll be a few years before they pull off another pandemic. But play that card again. Because the next time they do it, I think there's gonna be so many things to do with VR and just the virtual setting in the metaverse that the pandemic, we're gonna look back and be like, oh my goodness, we only had Netflix back. Can you imagine? We had Zoom and Netflix. Oh, so old. Remember Zoom and Netflix? That's how it's gonna be. It's gonna be the next pandemic because everyone's gonna be just all immersed. So, yes. It has something. Okay. Must help out the child. I'm pretty much done with the show here, but I do need to help her out for a second here. So let me play some music, and I will return in just a moment. Sorry about that, guys. I had to do that a couple times the last couple episodes. Oh, we still got baby infiltration here. At least he's got his clothes on. Oh, he loves ambulance. Oh, he's hitting the mute button there. You want to say hello again? No. Huh? Hello. He likes monster trucks right now. You like monster trucks? Monster trucks, yeah, he likes the monster trucks, and you like fire trucks, right? No, you don't like fire trucks anymore? Monster trucks. We've moved on to monster trucks, folks. Oh, you want to watch the monster trucks? Oh, boy. Oh, that cough. Everyone has a cough. Okay, hold on. Monster trucks. This is fun. This is good podcasting, isn't it? Just trying to appease the child for a few more minutes while I try to wrap up the show and thank some people. Let's see. Well, there goes my guitar. That's always fun. Here, bud. Yep, there you go. Okay. All right. Let's wrap up the show. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around. I know there's so janky and I can't wait for Basil to get back. Solo shows are fun, but it really, I'm sure people are getting sick of just hearing me talk about stuff like this all the time and going on rambles. But yeah, my rambles do get cut short when Basil's on the show. So hope everyone enjoyed a full dose of Gons with all these topics. I hope I've been insightful. I don't always... I tend to ramble and I don't always have a point or I forget the point I'm making sometimes. But I try to at least bring some information to you that is worth considering when it comes to this crazy world that we're living in. And to thank some of you for that, we shall get some, let's see, do we have audio producers today? Let me double check. I thought we might have, but now I'm forgetting if we did. Let's see. No, I don't think we have any. Oh, well, you know what? Doesn't matter. Let's start with SpeakPipe.
Please leave a message after the tone.
At the tone, please record your message.
Leave a message. Beep.
Message. go to canarycrynewstalk.com, look for a green tab on the right side or the bottom, click on it, and it'll give you a little window that allows you to record a audio message of up to 90 seconds. Send it to us, or actually just hit send and it'll come to us. We'll listen to it, or if we don't listen to it, we can play it. And if you want it to be a private message, please say it at the beginning of the message so we don't play the whole thing before we accidentally air it, So today we have something from Rochelle. It was a two-part message. I'm going to relay just the important points from the first message. She was praying for us. Thank you, Rochelle. Praying for Basil's recovery. She wanted to thank Our Lady Petunia for inspiring her for this Speak Pipe message on Isaiah 55.
Isaiah 55. Thank you, one lousy Petunia. Come to the water, all who thirst. Sweet bread and a wine, but listen first. May your soul live and delight in abundance. His faithful mercy lives among us. Leave behind the wicked amaze. His ways are higher than our ways. He gives rain and turns it to grain. Seed for the sower, bread for the baker. He's the creator, all others takers. His frequency saturates you and me. We sing things they try to avoid, but his word never returns to him void. So let us go out with joy and peace. The mountains sing out to the beat of the trees. I'm out of time. Stay strong for Jesus. I love you guys.
Thank you very much, Rochelle, for that wonderful speak pipe. Appreciate it. And thank you to One Lady Petunia for the inspiration there. Thank you. So that's it for the speak pipe. We don't have any audio production. We do have art production.
One art, please.
And we got something from Sir Dove.
One art, please, from Dove.
And we have a note from Dove that says, peace for today's, this week's Bible artwork. I did an illustration for Romans 13:10. Love does no wrong to its neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfillment of the law. Hope you guys like it. Keep doing what you do, and I'll keep praying for Ian's Dove. Thank you very much, Dove. And yes, we have this lovely kind of, is it a photo or a painting? I can't tell. What is it? Maybe a photo that's been not pasteurized. That's not the right word. Pastelized or something. I don't know. There's something going on. A little flower field thing in the background. And then in large pink bubbly letters, it says love, and the O of the love is a heart with a smiley face. Love is the law. And the law is, well, everything's shiny here, but there's lots of pink, lots of shine. Looks great. Love is the law. Thank you very much, Sir Dove. Appreciate it as always. This week's Bible art. We also got something from Marty K. There's a note here. It says, hey, Gonzo, Basil, and my fellow Canarians. I told you in 2020 that we're going to catch this one up to no good again. And then we have the picture here. Bilderberg Babe 2023, Met Fredrickson. I believe Met Fredrickson, if I am not mistaken, is the prime, I think she's the Prime Minister of Denmark. Prime Minister of Denmark. Sorry, I got that wrong. Prime Minister of Denmark. Let's see. We'll continue reading the note. Called it. I'm giving y'all a mental high five right now. Don't let me hang in, fellas and ladies. Okay. Mental high five to Marty K there. Basil, I hope you're getting better, and I'll continue praying for you, and I'll promise to wait saving the world until you're back and ready to be kicking butts and taking names again. Flex emoji, fist emoji, that makes me uncomfortable. Heart emoji. We got 6.5 years left, so no one needs to stress about it. Yet, scream emoji, crying, laughing emoji. I love all of you. Yours truly, Marty K, Knight of the Wrong Timeline. Thank you very much, Marty K. Appreciate it. And actually, I don't know what did Met Fredrickson, what trouble did she get into? Does anybody know in the chat? Let's see. I'm trying to see. Met Fredrickson. Oh, she went to Bilderberg. That was it. Ah, got it. Duh. Sorry. Should have known. There you go. All right. Very nice. Now we do have some microfiction actually today.
Microfiction.
Time.
Microfiction.
It is not from Runk Smash. It is from Stefan S. I did not see one from Runk Smash today, so that's a little unusual, but I think people are busy. This one is from Stefan S, and here it goes. Huge pharma marketing reaches out to Dr. Diablo. The lack of research monkeys is presenting an emerging market for your Nangoons project. I feel like I've read this one already. The market price shows we could have 4-fold profit. However, your product needs to be fury and with a tail. Did I read this one already? What? Okay. Daughter can't wait 5 minutes. Cannot wait, folks. Where's the babysitter? What's happening? How come there's no babysitting that ever happens when I need it? Okay, so there you go. Thank you very much, Stefan S. Had to do with the story about the... oops. Where did it go? He had the link for me here. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick to show you guys, just so we know what the whole microfiction was about. Wall Street Journal. The U.S. is running out of research monkeys. That's right. We reported on this. They're running out of monkeys to research on. And hey, just like that, boom, Neuralink gets their human trials thing. There are other companies that already had it. But hey, maybe that was Elon's pitch. Oh, we're running out of monkeys, you see. Ha ha. We just need to start using it on humans, you see. Ha ha. Ha. I am the Antichrist. Ha ha. So there you go. Thank you very much to Stefan S for that. And that is it. That's it for the producers who came in with their talent. Very much appreciated. And looking forward to more from all of you. If you have something you'd like to submit, please go to canarycry.art and you will see you'll find a little thing where you can submit your art and give us a note and all the fun stuff there. If you have articles you'd like to send us, go to canarycry.report and you will see a Canary Cry Newstalk article submission form that you can fill out. Send a link, share some thoughts, and we may consider it for the show. Also, real quick here. Let me just do this now.
Canary Cry Meetup.
Canary Cry Meetups. There is a new meetup happening very shortly in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. If you're in that area, Saturday, June 17th. That is not this upcoming Saturday, but the following one. 10 a.m., Cafe Nordstrom at the King of Prussia Mall. Contact Mr. Jag, and Mr. Jag, I need an official email for people to contact you, but if you would like to go ahead and email us for right now, canarycryradio@gmail.com or canarycryradio@protonmail.com. And if you're interested, Mr. Jag is in the States, it looks like. And he's going to hold a potential meetup over in Philadelphia. So if you're in that area, consider joining them. And if you don't see, the next one that's scheduled is in Eastern North Carolina, September 2nd. So we got some time. If you don't see your location, simply consider making one yourself. Choose a location, figure out a date and time, make a poster. We can help with all of that and promote it. And people will show up. It's a great way to meet with local people that are like-minded. We'll see you at the meetup.
This is fun!
See you at the meetup.
All right. Oh, something's happening. She's mad. Okay. Whoa, doors being slammed. Real quick, reviews. 6-year-olds can really be punchy. Go to Canary Cry News Talk on Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and a review. So far there are 769, and we're stuck on that number. Although, I do think that people give reviews or, write reviews, but we don't always see it right away. I think Apple has some kind of system where they like release it over time or something. I don't know, but there aren't any new ones in there, so please leave a rating and a review. Thank you very much. What else? Oh, let's go ahead and thank some of our other producers, starting with the Clippies.
Clippy on those videos. Thanks.
Emsworth, Faye Liverin, Jones, Laura, thank you very much for running the Clips channel and making that whole thing happen, because it's a great way to get short snippets of the show out there, sharing it with friends and family. It's a good opportunity to, especially if we make a good point or something and we got it down in a nice short format video, couple minutes, maybe even a minute. We're trying to do is, get it down to about a minute, which is tough with the way I ramble and the way Basil rambles. But that's kind of the goal here, is to get some shorter clips out so that, you can share it with friends and family and do that. So thank you very much for that. And that wouldn't be possible without timestampers.
Timestamp, it's hard work. Timestamp.
And for episode 629, we have Jade Bouncerson to thank as helping out one of our newer timestampers, who is also a producer, an ongoing producer of the show, and that's Morgan E. Morgan E., thank you very much for doing the timestamps. I think there was a note in there about how Morgan felt so official. And yeah, you're official now. You're a timestamper. Thank you very much for Morgan E., assisted by Jade Bouncerson, doing the timestamps for episode number 629. Appreciate it. Okay, real quick, I want to talk real quick about the supply drop.
Supply drop.
Go to canarycry.supply.drop.com. It is a website that it's a site where you can see what the supply drop is all about. It's for people that want to support the show and do it consistently in a set it and forget it way. It's the subscription model. Yeah, I know. But it's for those who really want to step it up and support the show month to month. $33.33 will get you the privilege of being a supply dropper, which means that not only do you get to produce the show every single month, but as a thank you for that, you get a drop shipment of supplies that include all kinds of fun Canary Cry branded stuff made in America. And starting in Q3, I believe, Age of Deceit 1 DVD copies will be part of the supply drop. So definitely consider joining if you have not already. It's a great way to get a hard copy of Age of Deceit, and we'll be doing Age of Deceit 2 and 3 and 4, and it'll all be coming. Yes, 4 will be coming in 2024 if all goes to plan, and Lord willing. So thank you for that. Please learn more about it at canarycrysupply.drop.com.
Waiting for supply drop.
Other than that, please share the show with friends and family. If it's not the links to the shorts, just give them the RSS feed. Give them canarycry.party. Do something creative, something fun. Get them into the show. And, you probably do, especially for like newer listeners who are completely new to this style of podcast. You might have to say like, yeah, it might take a little bit to get used to. It's a little bit weird, just kind of ignore the weird parts and just see what value you can get out of it. I know some people did that with me with no agenda. So I know it works in terms of listening to the show and wanting to learn more about the people behind the show, which is not just me and Basil. It is all of you, the people listening, the people watching. And also the producers, of course. Those are the ones that are really making it happen. So, share it with friends and family. What's a creative way to do that? Let me think. Let me think of a creative way pertaining to this episode. Let's see. We had some anti-woke merchants playing the reverse psychology game. So, you know what? That's what we should do. We should do a massive reverse psychology game where we just, I don't know. See, it's tough because so many people have been censored off YouTube already. But I don't know, something like a campaign. We know what we need. We need somebody in the mainstream media to write an article about Canary Cry News Talk and make it all about how horrible we are and how, nobody should listen to the show because it's just an awful show with awful, fake, false information, terrible opinions, terrible personalities, weird guy in googly eyes who thinks he can take a month off from some kind of appendix burst, crazy Asian dude stirring up controversy, and nobody should ever listen to the show. And that's how you should pitch it to your friends. Whatever you do, don't listen to Canary Cry News Talk. Just don't do it. It's very dangerous. It'll radicalize you. The stuff they're saying is just way out there. It's too crazy. Too crazy. Don't even look at it. Don't even mention the name CanaryCryNewsTalk.com. I don't know. That might be a way to do it because create the Streisand effect. That's what we need. We just need a bunch of people curious as to why some celebrity that we paid on Cameo is screaming about how they shouldn't watch Canary Cry or listen to Canary Cry News Talk. Maybe that's another thing we can do. We can go on Cameo, find a celebrity, and we can vote on it internally. As the Canarium, pick a celebrity for the marketing and have them do this whole pitch, this read on how horrible Canary Cry News Talk is and how nobody should listen to it and it should be banned, and then make that baby go viral and boom, boom, curious minds start clicking. So anyway, that's fun. All right. Or you can, of course, do the traditional thing, which is to rattle people's cages. It's simple. You grab people by the cage, you walk up to them. Well, you got to walk up to them first, and then you grab them by the cage, and then you shake them.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
Ask Noah. Yes. What are we doing? Oh, yeah. Thank you for being here, everybody. Got through another one. Solo. But we will be back on Wednesday. That will be the 7th of June. Man, June's just flying by here. The 7th of June is, let's see, on the Canary Cry calendar, 2018, Bayer acquires Monsanto. Wow, those Monsanto folks, I guess Bayer folks, are going to be popping the champagne on Wednesday. Hey, we took over the genetically modified food company. Monsanto is ours, and now we can crush the entire food economy. Which, by the way, we didn't do the story, but I did hear about the story about the wanting to kill 200,000 cows. I think it was Ireland to fight climate change. Yeah, let's genocide the cows to save the planet, so we can eat our insect goo. And say, thank you, Klaus, for the insect goo. All right. There you go. Come back Wednesday, the 7th. Until then, God bless everybody. And remember to think outside the cage.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Buy!
I want to shake things up, shake things up. I want to shake things up, shake things up. Leave the bird alone. I want to stir up some controversy. I want to rattle a few cages. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. A crusader for the little guy. Little guy. Well, we'll see about that.
Whatever, Illuminati.
Fun fact, I believe it was another fun fact. Fun fact. Another fun fact.
Brings me back to my Screamo days.
I've ordered more pills than anyone in the world.
I was alone on the road, going nowhere. When I noticed I was lost, I looked around for a sign anywhere. But there was none to be found. Jesus, my Savior. Jesus, my Savior. Jesus, my Savior. I realize that there's one, only one, way to get to the true light. So I walked on the road to his house, where I'll live there forevermore. Jesus, my Savior. 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 Jesus, my Savior.
Bye. I'm out of here. Bye. Bye. I'm out of here. Bye.
See you more.
Canary CryRadio.com/support